Hi, I'm Dr. Chad Larson. We're in an era right now that is kind of maximizing people's bandwidth, and they just feel kind of taxed. And this is kind of manifesting in a lot of different ways, and I'm hearing it from my patients. But there's some consistent themes, and there's some things that we've applied to people's sort of life that seems to help kind of mitigate some of these symptoms. And some of the symptoms are like memory issues, and these are people without any real history of memory issues, and maybe they're not even at that age where memory issues are kind of more common. We're talking people in their 20s, 30s, 40s. They just feel kind of maxed out, and they feel kind of, you know, their cognitive load is so high that they're developing symptoms of anxiety and depression without any prior history of anxiety and depression, brain fog, these kind of things. And so there's a few things that I just want to talk about to help mitigate the kind of neurobiological load that the brain is having to deal with in this sort of era. And I think the term stress management is a little bit too 1990s, but there's some things that we've understood that really kind of help to decrease the adverse effects of having so much kind of overloaded information and negative information coming into our brain that we have to deal with, that it's overwhelming a lot of people. So at the same time, when we feel like this, oftentimes the practices that might have been in our life before have kind of faded away. And so this is kind of a reminder. These are a few what I call neurobiological non-negotiables. These are things I go through lists of this with patients that might be 10 or 15 different things long of things that they need to incorporate in their life. But this is a short non-negotiable list. And so these are things that are really brain-based. This isn't new agey kind of spiritual stuff. This is neurobiological. These are things that literally influence our neuroanatomy, our neural networks, the neurotransmitters, things like dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine, oxytocin, all these brain chemicals that really dictate our mood and behavior could absolutely be influenced by some basic things that we can do on a regular basis. So I just want to go through some of those. One of them is optimize your sleep. We've had so many episodes on sleep, but like I've talked about before, my favorite sleep researcher, Matthew Walker, he says sleep is like the Swiss Army knife of health. And it really is. There's things that happen in sleep that you can't get from any other lifestyle change or diet or anything else. So you really, really have to maximize your sleep, especially in this time where the brain is kind of overloaded. We need that rejuvenation, repair, and recovery time that only sleep can do. We want to make whole food choices. During times of stress, oftentimes the dietary choices kind of tail off. And this is a time where, just as a reminder, maybe the most important time where we have to really maximize our nutrition. And I'm really just talking about whole food nutrition. And I'm not talking about what camp to be in. Should you be vegan? Should you be paleo? Should you be keto? Should you do whatever? I'm just talking about get the processed foods out. Eat whole foods the way that sort of nature intended. It's all about getting back to what our DNA is expecting. What's our DNA expecting? It's not expecting processed, fake packaged foods. Eat good nutrition. And this will actually help with all these other non-negotiables here. Number 3 is exercise. Again, what our DNA is really expecting, what our brain's expecting is we need to move. Movement, again, there's nothing else that we can do that movement sort of replaces, or that anything that can replace movement. You got to exercise. Just go for a walk. Walking totally counts. Go for a walk, and you can sort of stack up these different things. You can go for a walk, and I'll get to active recovery in just a moment, but you can sort of stack these things, and you can kind of kill two birds with one stone kind of deal. So you got to exercise. I'm calling these daily practices. Exercise, maybe you don't have to do it daily, but a minimum of 60 minutes 3 times a week. You can do, 6 days a week of 30 minutes, whatever. But the idea is that you want to have some bit of exercise every day. You got to get the body moving. So key for cognition in the brain. Helps to increase things like serotonin and dopamine and norepinephrine, brain chemicals that really influence the way that we kind of behave in our mood and how we sort of react to our environment. Gratitude practice. Again, this is not, some new agey kind of thing. Gratitude practice has real, direct effects on brain function. So that's what we're talking about here. And gratitude practice is a bunch of different ways you can do that. You can handwrite a thank you note to somebody. Pick somebody in your life that you want to thank for something, but you want to write it out. You can't text them. You can't email them. You got to put, pen to paper and write it out. This is what the science shows. You got to write it out. Another thing could be you just write down 10 things that you're grateful for, and you gotta read it, kind of reread it, and really feel the gratitude that the things that you're grateful for. You could write down maybe 3 or 4 things, pick one of them, and write a whole paragraph on it. So there's multiple ways that you can kind of exercise this gratitude practice, really key neurobiologically. We start to find more things that we're grateful for because that's the practice that we're doing on a daily basis. So your brain starts hunting for these things. And we're just setting up this sort of pattern recognition. We're subject to maybe so much kind of negative information. We have to offset that with gratitude. Active recovery. This can be going in a sauna. It could be going in a hot tub, getting yoga or doing yoga, getting a massage, spending time in nature, spending time in the sun, going for a walk out in nature. And this is where you can kind of stack some of these things. You can get your exercise and get your active recovery all at the same time. And so you want to incorporate these things on a daily basis because these are the things that help to really offset and kind of raise our stress threshold. For a lot of people, they're just burning hot, kind of, they're kind of maxed out and the threshold is right here. But if we can raise that threshold with these activities, then it will take a lot more sort of activities and stressors to kind of get us past that point where we start to actually develop symptoms of anxiety and depression and brain fog and memory issues and different cognitive, issues. These are non-negotiables. These are things that we want to do really on a daily basis. Exercise, maybe we could say at least 3 times a week for an hour, but we want to do these things daily. And so that's the take-home message. I'm hearing, these symptoms over and over and over again. So there's just a reminder, none of this stuff is new. Everybody's, heard of these things, but it's about actually incorporating these in such a way to where they're just automated in your life. We're talking, 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, 10 minutes here. This is not a big, time-consuming thing, but it has to be done on a regular basis. And that's where the real power of it comes from. So hopefully that's helpful. Neurobiological non-negotiables. These are all based on just loads and loads and loads of science. So I'll keep reading studies and bringing you the information. Until then, keep it real.